Hey guys, Mandy Ravicchio here, Senior Content Creator with Michael Hyatt and Company. I just want to welcome all of you to this incredible webinar. If you're here for the webinar with Michael Hyatt, you are absolutely in the right place. And if you've never been on a webinar before, I just want to encourage you that this is going to be an absolutely phenomenal experience. So stick with us until the very end. I know that Michael is going to be able to deliver some fantastic insight to help you with your own blogging aspirations. So make sure you stay with us. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close out my webcam and officially get this party started. Hey guys, Mandy Ravicchio here, Senior Content Creator with Michael Hyatt and Company. I want to welcome you to this special webinar with Michael Hyatt, Blog Faster, Blog Smarter, how to create content people want to read and share in just 3 hours a week. Now, before we begin, I'd like to start by asking you a question. Does this sound like you? You've got a message burning inside of you. You have a product, a service, or a cause that the world desperately needs to hear about. But you're frustrated because you just can't seem to get the attention that that message deserves. Well, if that sounds like you, you have absolutely come to the right place. I want to introduce you to our instructor for this special webinar, Mr. Michael Hyatt. In case you don't know him, Michael is the author of the book Platform, Get Noticed in a Noisy World. It is a New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today bestseller, along with his latest USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller, Living Forward, a proven plan to stop drifting and get the life you want. Michael spent most of his career in the world of book publishing, most recently as the chairman and CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishers, the 7th largest publisher in the US. When the company was sold to HarperCollins in 2011, Michael left his position to venture out on his own as a full-time author, speaker, and leadership coach. His blog, michaelhyatt.com, gets almost 1 million page views every month. And his podcast, This Is Your Life, co-hosted by Michelle Kashat, is consistently in the iTunes top 10 for business. Recently, Forbes magazine named him one of the top 10 online experts to follow. In fact, they said, if you only have time to follow one expert, Hyatt is our top pick. Michael has been married to his wife, Gail, for 38 years, and together they have 5 grown daughters. He also has 3 sons-in-law and 8 grandchildren. Now listen, you've set aside the time to attend this webinar, so I want to encourage you to maximize this time by turning off the ringer on your cell phone, shutting down your email program, and eliminating as many distractions as possible so you can really focus. I promise you, Michael's content will be well worth it. And if you haven't already downloaded the special webinar workbook that Michael has prepared, you'll want to do that now before we begin. You can do that at platformuniversity.com/workbook. And that's going to help you pick up all of the important insights that Michael shares during this webinar. So again, head over to platformuniversity.com/workbook to grab your copy. And if you want to tweet about the webinar, please feel free to do so. Here are our Twitter handles. Michael is at Michael Hyatt, and I'm at Mandy_Riv. Please just use the hashtag #blogfaster so we can interact with you there. Now, finally, before I bring on Michael, I wanted to let you know that we'll be having a Q&A session at the end of this call. I'll be asking Michael all of the most commonly asked questions that we've received over the years about blogging and building a platform. So if you've got a question at any point during this webinar, make sure you stick around because it's likely that somebody else has already asked the same thing and you'll get an answer to your question during our Q&A. So without any further ado, let me bring on our webinar instructor, Mr. Michael Hyatt.
Hey, Mandy, how you doing?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Excited about this webinar.
I'm excited too. Man, I'm so glad to see you here today. I know webinars are one of your very favorite things that we do.
Absolutely. I love presenting on a webinar.
Now, I know this topic in particular is one that you're really passionate about. I mean, you literally wrote the book on building a platform. So why is it that this is so close to your heart and you're so passionate about this material?
Well, I think that blogging is still the easiest, least expensive way to start getting traction online and building an audience and establishing your authority. But for a lot of people, it takes too long. They just don't have the time in their schedule, or they don't know how to write well enough. And so what I'm going to be sharing in this webinar is going to enable people to blog faster, to get their content out there on the web so they can begin building a platform and begin having an impact, which is, I know, why people are on this webinar. They've got a message, as you stated in the introduction, that they want to get out to the world and they're passionate about it. And frankly, the world needs to hear it. So we're going to overcome a lot of obstacles that are getting in people's way and keeping them from doing that.
That's awesome. Well, I cannot wait to hear what you've got to share today. So I'm going to go ahead and close down my webcam so that we can dive right into the content, and I will see you for the Q&A.
Terrific. I'll do the same. Well, okay. Welcome again to today's webinar, Blog Faster, Blog Smarter, how to create content people want to read and share in just 3 hours a week. Now, here's what you're going to discover in this webinar. First of all, the number one reason most bloggers aren't consistent and how to fix it. The minimum number of times you need to blog per week to gain traction in today's world. Now, there's a lot of controversy about this because some people, you need to blog, 5 times a week or 3 times a week or once a week. I'm going to answer the question, sort of the minimum dose that is required in order to get traction. Also, you're going to discover a powerful question that'll keep you motivated when you get discouraged and wonder if anyone really cares what you have to say. And that happens to all of us. You'll also discover the software solution that ensures you'll never lose another killer post idea again and how to use it. You'll discover the exact workflow I use to write, edit, and publish a blog post in under an hour. It takes most people 2 or 3 times that long, but I've got some hacks that make it much easier and much faster. Then you'll discover my easy-to-use tech recommendations to focus your creativity so you don't waste time fiddling around with the technical stuff. What a time waste, time suck that can be. Then you'll discover the often overlooked time management hack that still works wonders for 90% of bloggers. You'll discover how to pinpoint and eliminate the exact point in the blogging process where you get stuck. And then finally, you're going to discover clear next steps that you can take to quickly create content people will want to read. Yes, that's important, but share. That's how you grow your platform when the content is so good that people want to share it with their friends and followers. Plus, the inspiration you need to take action. Now, this is going to be super practical. It's going to be a high-value webinar. So congratulations for showing up today. I'm thrilled that you're here. This tells me, by the way, that you're serious about building your platform. You're willing to invest some time in making it happen. So again, thanks for showing up. And as a thank you for showing up, I want to give you the first of some really cool bonuses that are going to help you quickly create great content. And it's called the Ultimate Blog Headline Swipe File. And for any seasoned writers on this webinar, crafting a headline can be one of the trickiest parts of the writing process. And rather than coming up with your own headlines all the time, this is why it's called a swipe file, because you swipe the best of what's out there. But it's a collection of 99 proven headline formulas that are going to make it easier for you to create a juicy, irresistible title. And I'll talk about in the webinar why that's so important. But you can download your copy. It's free at platformuniversity.com/swipe file. And you don't need to do that right now. Just write down that URL, and you can do it after the webinar. So that's the link. I also have another bonus that I want to tell you about, and I'm really super excited about this. It's been one of the most popular bonuses that we've ever offered. People beg us for this in between webinars, and the only way to get it is on the webinar. But it's a thank you for staying on until the end of the webinar, and it's called the Monetization Jumpstart Package. And it includes 2 exclusive interviews that I did for Platform University. One was Chalene Johnson, called How to Create an Irresistible Product in 1 week. How cool would that be to have a product that you could begin to sell online in just a week? And then there's an interview that I did with Dan Miller, how to make $150,000 this year from your platform. That may seem crazy, like it's impossible. I promise after you watch this interview, it'll show you that it's not only possible, but it really is just a decision away. What you need to do is to decide to do that, and Dan's going to break it up into some very logical steps. So we'll talk later about why all this is important, but it's yours free. This bonus is yours free if you just stay on till the end of the webinar. So stick around. Now, back to today's topic. Again, the webinar is entitled Blog Faster, Blog Smarter, How to Create Content People Will Want to Read and Share in Just 3 hours a week. And I've been blogging now for about 12 years. And as a result of that, I've got some stuff to share with you that is kind of my best practices, stuff I've learned in that whole process to make it faster and smarter. As Mandy mentioned, I spent most of my career in the corporate world, book publishing to be specific, and this is the world of old, slow media, right? Well, I began blogging in 2004. I said 12 years earlier. I guess I can't do my math right. It's more than that. But I consider myself a professional writer, a speaker, and a coach. And my blog at michaelhyatt.com now enjoys almost 1 million page views a month. But I promise you, that wasn't always true. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I started like everyone else at the very beginning. In fact, I would say that I floundered for the first 4 years. I couldn't attract more than 1,000 unique visitors a month for the first 4 years when I started. But then in 2008, something happened. My traffic skyrocketed. It went from about 700 unique visitors on average per month in 2007 to 20,000 average unique visitors. Well, actually, they weren't average, but the average number of unique visitors per month was 20,000 in 2008. Now, there's a lot of reasons for why that happened, but the main point I want to give to you here is that it's gone up every year since. This past year, as I said, I averaged nearly 1 million page views from nearly 500,000 unique visitors. Now, the number one reason for this, and this is apropos to the webinar today, the number one reason for this was consistency. When you consistently post high-value free content, growth in the number of followers is inevitable. If you're posting consistently, and if you're adding, again, high-value free content, content that really solves your readers' problems, addresses their needs, inspires them. If you do that consistently, your traffic will take off. And I promise you this, it won't take you 4 years before that happens. We've seen people do it in as little as 6 months. So, look, I know we're all incredibly busy and we're all pressed for time. And like you, I began building my platform around the margins of a full-time career. I was the CEO at Thomas Nelson Publishers, very busy family life with 5 daughters, and it was incredibly demanding, probably just like your life. But here's what I discovered. If you want to be consistent, you've got to have strategies to create content quickly. If it's time-consuming, you're never going to be consistent. And that's what this webinar is about. So today, I'm going to give you 10 strategies to crush the 4 most common obstacles that keep you from creating content fast. And these strategies are going to empower you to finally deliver high-value content that your followers can't wait to read and share. So are you ready? Awesome. Well, let's dive in. The first obstacle that prevents most would-be bloggers from quickly creating content is a lack of clarity. They don't know what to blog about. They don't know to whom they're writing. But I've got 2 strategies to ensure you're never hindered by a lack of clarity again. Strategy number 1 is set a minimum posting goal. And as I said earlier, there's a lot of controversy about this. I mean, when I decided to get consistent in 2008, I thought that consistency meant 7 days a week. And I did that for about a year. Then I dialed it back to 5 days a week. Then a few years ago, I dialed it back to 3 days a week. And this is where I want to introduce a concept to you that Timothy Ferriss talks about, and it's called the minimum effective dose. And here's what that means. For example, at sea level, water boils at 212 degrees. So what that means is that if you're trying to heat it up to, 220 degrees or 300 degrees, you're wasting energy because it won't make any difference. 212 degrees is all that it requires for water to boil. Now, based on interacting with thousands of bloggers through Platform University, which is my membership site, I've concluded that for most people, one post a week is the minimum effective dose. And you don't really, especially at the beginning, need to do more than that. Get consistent on delivering one post a week. You might be enthusiastic. You might leave this webinar. You might think, I'm going to do 5 days a week or 7 days a week. Resist that temptation until you get consistent, because it's easy to start with enthusiasm and then kind of peter out. And you don't want to do that. You want to be consistent because that builds trust with your audience. So I highly recommend you don't overcommit. Don't attempt more than you can sustain. Take baby steps. Why? Because when it comes to blogging, consistency is more important than frequency. Let me say it again. Write it down. When it comes to blogging, consistency is more important than frequency. Let me give you an action item. Set a goal for the number of times you'll post per week. And I would suggest that you start with one. And until you get consistent, you don't dial it up from there, because again, consistency is the key. Strategy number 2, connect with your why. My wife likes to say it this way: people lose their way when they lose their why. And it's true for all of us. I don't care whether it's parenting or marriage or our career or blogging. When we're not connected to our why, we're inevitably going to lose our way. So you've got to ask yourself, what's at stake with regard to consistently blogging for you? What's hanging in the balance? It's got to be more than just, it would be nice if I could do this, or it would be a way for me to give creative expression. For you, what's hanging in the balance? Or to say it another way, what would consistent blogging make possible for you? Could it open a door that would otherwise be impossible to open? So write down your answer as a series of bullet points. For example, back in 2004, when I started blogging, here were some of the reasons I started. First of all, I wanted to build an audience. I wanted to see if there was anybody out there that cared about the things I cared about and were interested in hearing me speak. I also wanted to be perceived as a thought leader in my industry. I was in a very competitive industry of book publishing, and I wanted to elevate my visibility in that industry and be thought of as a thought leader. I thought it would be good for my company. I also wanted to have greater influence. I knew I had these ideas that had worked for me, ideas about leadership and productivity and personal development and publishing and so on. And I wanted to share those with the world because I wanted to have influence. I wanted to help other people. And honestly, so that I could eventually monetize my platform. I didn't really fully grasp, especially back in 2004, what was possible with that. Now, today, and I'm not saying that everybody's going to get to this point or even want to get to this point, but today, this is my full-time work. I've got a team of about 21 people, multi-million-dollar company. All of it began by monetizing my platform at the, thinking about that at the very beginning, or seeing the possibility. For you, it might be just additional income. It might be to replace your income. It might be moving into a job that would be more congruent with who you are and what you want to accomplish and what you're called to do in the world. Regardless, you got to come up with what's at stake for you. Let me give you an action item. Write out your why as a series of bullet points. Don't be tempted to skip over this. It's critically important. And obviously, you don't have to do it here. I'm giving you action steps for after the webinar. Okay, now the second obstacle that can really hinder you from quickly creating content is that you struggle to tap into your creativity. But don't worry, I've got a few strategies that'll help you unleash your best ideas every time you sit down to write. Now, a lot of people do get stuck on this. They think, well, I can't think of anything to write about, or I don't know what to write about. I'm going to help you figure out how to guarantee that never happens to you. And it begins with strategy number 3. Fill the well on a regular basis. In other words, you can't have maximum output unless you're doing something to intentionally create the right input. So by becoming a collector of inspiring ideas, You're able to avoid the dreaded cursor blinking on a blank screen. You're able to start with something instead of creating from scratch. Now, here are some ways that you can fill the well. Number one, read books. You know, readers are leaders, and most writers are readers too. You've got to be reading. It's not that you're trying to regurgitate somebody else's ideas, but the mere interaction with those ideas. As you read books, it stimulates your own thinking, creates synergy. You start having original thoughts, and you start coming up with ideas for blogging. Another thing you can do, I just did this morning as I was at the gym, listening to podcasts, a terrific way to get fresh, stimulating input. Or, and I love this, conduct a reader survey. Why not just ask your readers what they want to hear from you on, or what their problems are, or what their aspirations are, what their obstacles are? If you know that, it's amazing what you can do in terms of creative content. I do a reader survey every year. Still, at my level, I'm doing a reader survey every year because I want to keep connected to what's important to my audience. Maybe you're thinking, but I don't really have an audience. I haven't even started blogging. Look, if all you do is ask people, even if you just did it on the phone or in person, ask people that are in your target audience, what are some of the things they're struggling with? What are some of their hopes and dreams? And be careful to write that information down. Even if you had 10 people that you surveyed, that's 10 times as much as you know right now, I promise. Another thing you can do is collect a set of frequently asked questions. You know, what are the questions that people typically ask you? You know, maybe if you've got a blog, these are comments that people leave, or their email replies that people give to your newsletter, or maybe it's just questions that come in via email related to your profession or related to what your interests are. Whatever those are, collect a set of frequently asked questions. Those can be a tremendous source of blogging. Literally, for a couple of years, that's all I did. I just basically answered questions. And they were really relevant because they were coming from real readers. Here's your action item. Identify one new way that you'll begin filling the well. If you don't fill the well, I promise you're not going to have consistent output. You've got to be consistent in getting that well full. Strategy number 4, create a repository for new ideas. In other words, when you have an idea, and so often these happen in the shower, or they happen on the treadmill, or they happen on your commute, if you don't have a repository, those ideas are going to evaporate into the ether. That means you've got to have a ubiquitous solution. I just like saying that word. Big word, but I like it. It means it's something that is always present or found everywhere, so that you're not, hunting for something to write it down or capture that idea. But before it evaporates, you've already got that figured out. For example, it could be as simple as a paper journal, just a moleskin journal, where you have a place where you write down ideas. I used to sit in meetings at Thomas Nelson, and I was taking notes on what was happening in the meeting. But the last several pages of that notebook, I always had for blog post ideas, because they happened in meetings, or they happened when I was at a conference, or they happened when I was doing something else. And I wanted to capture them, get them out of my head into a trusted system where I wouldn't forget them. You could also use a software application that's present on every device. So whether you're working on your laptop or your iPad or your Android device or your desktop computer, there's a software application that's present on every device. And I would recommend, and I personally use, Evernote. It works on every platform, and it is a great way to keep track of your post ideas. Now, my Evernote system consists of a notebook and 2 tags. So I have something called content resources. That's the notebook. And then I have 2 tags, post ideas and posted. So when I have the idea, I create a brand new note in my content resources notebook, and then I tag it with post idea or post ideas. And then once I've posted it, I tag it with posted, so that I don't have to keep looking at that over and over again, because I've already written about it, right? So sometimes I'll simply enter inside of Evernote a post title. For example, here I had this idea for a post I've actually since written on it, called "How to Use Nozbe with a Team and Why You Should." Sometimes I enter the title and the seed of an idea. In other words, I amplify it. This was a title called Unless People Pay, They Usually Don't Pay Attention. And then I just put this note. Why should you charge for your products and services? Because when people don't pay, they don't pay attention. So it gives me a little context so that if I sleep between the time I have the idea and actually write the note, I can remember what it was that gave birth to that idea. Here's another one. Sometimes I enter the title and even a rough outline. So 4 reasons you should buy a stand-up desk. I won't read this to you, but as you can see, I've got the beginning of an outline, which makes it so much easier when I sit down to write. I'm not looking, as I said earlier, at that dreaded blinking cursor trying to come up with something to write on. I've got some raw material here that I can work with. Sometimes I enter a title and the quote that inspired it. So The Tyranny of Tiny Tasks, and this was an article in Mashable, and I just pulled out the quote. I've also got a link to it so I can go back to the original source and link to it when I'm blogging. But this was a tremendous quote that was really helpful in creating a blog post around that idea. Sometimes I enter a title and a web page that provides the idea or the research. One of the great things about Evernote is that it has a web clipper extension that plugs into the most popular browsers. So let's just say you're out there doing some research, you're surfing the web in your morning reading, again, trying to fill the well, right? And you come across an article. In this case, I came across something that was from the Freakonomics podcast, and it was written out here, and it was about the upside of quitting. And so I wasn't exactly sure how I might use that, but I thought, wow, there's some amazing ideas here. So I clicked the little button in my web browser, which was the Evernote extension, and it saved it here to Evernote. And as you can see, it's got a tag that says Post Ideas. So those are just a few of the ways I use Evernote, and it makes it so much easier so that I don't have to start from scratch. The idea is that you want to develop a frictionless workflow. And let me explain what I mean by that. This is my blogging workflow. Okay, I write the first draft, then I edit the first draft, I read it aloud, I insert relevant links, I find a compelling image, then I publish a draft, and then I proofread the draft. And by the way, if you're wondering why I do that, because I've already proofread it before, I do that because sometimes seeing it in its natural context on the web, on my web page, even though it's just a draft, it helps me to proofread it and I see things that I wouldn't see otherwise. Then I add the SEO metadata, then I tweak as necessary, and then I schedule for publication. So by having that blogging workflow set up like this, it enables me to go faster because I'm not recreating the wheel every time. So review your ideas when you get them and look for inspiration. So I usually start in my Evernote file and I look at those post ideas that I have not yet written on, and I find something, I know what the flow is going to be, and then I just begin with the idea and then I start. So much easier than starting from scratch. So here's the action item for you. Decide what you'll use to collect your post ideas. Okay? So again, could be as simple as something analog, like a paper journal, or something that's a little more sophisticated. But by the way, not necessarily better. The tool that's the best for you is the tool that you'll use consistently. If that's a paper journal, use that and don't apologize for it. If that's Evernote, great, use it. Okay. Strategy number 5, develop a blogging template. This is a game changer. When I figured this out, it cut my blogging time in half. It's a little bit like the workflow idea, but stop reinventing the wheel. You know, you can create a track or a template to run on. So I want you to think of this almost like my wife Gail has this circus waffle maker that enables her to consistently make these amazing circus waffles. Not for me, though I like them, but for the grandkids. So when they come over, she can make these cute little giraffe waffles or tiger waffles or elephant waffles, and those all come out of a template. And a template is something that enables you, kind of a form that you can pour your words into, or a track that you can follow to change the metaphor, to create a consistent result every time. But the template needs to be right for you. Now, I want to share with you the common elements, the template that I use, and I would recommend that you follow this template until you come up with your own, okay? It always begins with a title, duh. And we'll talk about why titles are important in a little bit, but the title's important. In my particular WordPress theme, I've got room for a subtitle. I use the Get Noticed WordPress theme, which is a theme that I sell, but it's got some features in it that I wanted to develop that I couldn't find in any others. But I like a subtitle that amplifies the title. You don't have to use that, but that's what I do. Then I always have an image. And even though I find it last, this is kind of how it appears in my blog, the title, the subtitle, and then the image. But we live in a visual world, and you need images that pull browsing readers into your content and give them a reason to read. Then the lead paragraph. This is so important. You know, you've got to grab people and show them that it's relevant in that first paragraph. If they don't, guess what happens? They bounce off and keep surfing. I like to start with a personal anecdote too. So after the lead paragraph, I just kind of transition into a personal anecdote, some story that's going to set up what I want to teach or what I want to explain in the blog post. And I just dig deep into my experience to do that. People are captivated by stories, and stories are a great way to hook people. Coming out of that personal anecdote, I pivot. You know, I'll just say something as simple as, you know, that story is a little bit like, and then I go into what it is I want to teach. Now I've illustrated it, and now I'm squeezing the juice out of that experience, and I'm applying it to people. Then I'll usually give an objective statement. You know, what's the big overarching truth that I want to communicate to people? And then I go into the rationale. And by this, these are the supporting ideas that are going to support that objective statement. For me, usually that's a numbered list. So for example, here in this webinar, the rationale are these strategies that I'm giving to you. And I'm giving you a series of these one after another. They support the objective statement. Then a conclusion, you know, wrap it up with a bow. And then I like to leave people with a question. So again, that's my blogging template. I want to recommend that you come up with one of your own. Look at some of your best posts, some that have gotten the most traffic or the most page views, and ask yourself the question, what was it about the structure of that I could replicate, and that could become my blogging template? So this, again, will be huge for you. But here's the action item. Design your own blogging template. Even if you start with mine, you're free to do that. It's not copyrighted. You can use it just like it is, or you can tweak it and make your own, whatever. That brings us to the third obstacle that'll prevent you from quickly creating content, and that's you're not sure you have the necessary competence. I mean, who hasn't felt this? This is a hang-up for people when it comes to writing techniques, but it's especially true when it comes to the technology. People worry that they just aren't competent enough. And fortunately, it can be easier to fix than you think. And here are 4 strategies to help. Strategy number 6, hone your writing skills. I think there's this kind of mystique around writing. People think you either have it or you don't, and there's nothing you can do to learn it. I don't know of any writer, even talented writers, that was really good at the beginning. It just doesn't happen that way. It takes practice. It's a little bit like playing the guitar. You know, it's difficult at first, but the more you practice, the easier it gets. I remember when I first started learning guitar, I mean, first of all, my fingers hurt, right? Until I got calluses. I felt so awkward. It felt like I had to think about where every single finger goes. But after a while, it got much, much easier. One of the things you can do is subscribe to writing blogs. You know, there's a lot of help out there if you just look for it. And I'm going to give you a couple of my favorites. One of my favorite writing blogs for bloggers is called Copy Blogger. And you can get to it at copyblogger.com/blog. And they have tons of articles on how to write specifically for people that are surfing the web. Another one that's similar is ProBlogger at problogger.net/blog. And then third and finally, Jeff Goins' blog at goinswriter.com/blog. Jeff is a terrific writer. He's got a great story, but he helps people write not just books, which he does that, but also to write for the web. So those are some of my most trusted sources. Also, you can read books on writing. 2 of my favorites, and this first one, by the way, sounds a little cheesy, but Advertising Headlines That Make You Rich by David Garfinkel. is amazing. It's like a desk reference for me, because what David does is he looks at some of the best selling headlines, advertising headlines of all time. And these are sort of templates that you can use for your own blogging headlines or titles. But I use it as a desk reference. He finds the top ones, and then he shows you a lot of different ways that you could apply them to different subjects. And it's just terrific. Another great book, Writing Riches by Ray Edwards. And Ray is a master copywriter, and he teaches you some of the tricks of the trade there. Hang out with other writers. You know, one of the things that's really improved my writing is just hanging out with other bloggers and asking them what they do and observing what they do and just us talking about it. Another thing you can do, and this can be virtual, where you hang out with other writers, is a service like, or a membership site like Platform University, which is a site that I own. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it later, but you can find out more at platformuniversity.com/VIP. But it doesn't have to be face-to-face. It can be virtual. So here's an action item for you. Make sure you subscribed to writing blogs. At least find 2 and subscribe to them, and let that begin to inform and improve your own writing. Strategy number 7, use the right software. Now, I would strongly suggest that you start with WordPress, and you can find out more at michaelhyatt.com/WordPress. That's where I have a 20-minute screencast that'll walk you through the process of setting up your own WordPress blog in just 20 minutes. I go through it click by click, step by step. It's foolproof. I've helped, and this is hard for me to believe, over 100,000 people set up their own WordPress blog with that little screencast. I think it'll be helpful to you. Then use an easy-to-use editor. This is what I had to use when I first started writing. Believe it or not, back in 1979, it was an IBM Selectric, and it wasn't very easy. But you could use Evernote for this. You know, a lot of people, one of my sons-in-law who's a blogger does this. He uses Evernote, and he writes all of his posts in there. So I was showing you the post ideas earlier. He just fleshes those out right in Evernote. Very simple, very easy to use. Another one that I really like is one called Byword. And this is a simple, minimalist editor that keeps you from getting distracted. And I like it a lot. And you can find out more at bywordapp.com. Still another one is Scrivener, and that's spelled Scrivener, but the website is actually literatureandlatte.com. But this is like really a big deal. I mean, this is a great piece of software. You might find that it's a little more overkill than you need, but they do have a trial version, and you can give it a try, I think, for 30 days and see what you think. I also would encourage you to learn to write in multi-markdown. Now, don't let your eyes get glazed over here, or don't freak out thinking that's all real technical. It's not. It's the simplest, easiest way to write, so that you don't get sidetracked by all the formatting and all the bells and whistles of a traditional word processor. And I can teach you how to do it in 15 minutes if you go to michaelhyatt.com/MMD, as in multi-markdown. It's simple. It's what we use in my company. Everybody writes in multi-markdown, and it's easy to use. So action item is to consider using a simpler, easy-to-use editor. I don't, by the way, recommend that you use like Microsoft Word. You know, that's great for longer form documents. It's great for a lot of writing projects. But for blogging, I don't really like it. It's overkill. It's more than you need. And the other thing about it is it has some wonky formatting that when you put it into WordPress can kind of mess up the way your pages look. So I would stay away from that. Strategy number 8 is to outsource the difficult stuff. Wow, you mean you can outsource some of this blogging stuff? Absolutely. That's a smart way to do it. Let me explain a little bit. This is my wife, Gail. Isn't she cute? We've been married for 38 years. And I remember when I first suggested that she hire a housekeeper, she was like, no, I can't do that. I've got to do all of it myself. And I said, but honey, if you would do that, and at the time we could only afford somebody to come in for a few hours every couple of weeks. I said, if you'd let this person do the heavy cleaning, it would free you up to do only what you can do. We can hire somebody else that does this and probably loves it, but you don't love it. And frankly, you're not that great at it. So why don't we hire somebody so you can focus on the things you're really great at? And she's great at a lot of things. So she was willing to do that. And that was a tremendous relief for her and freed her up to do the important things. Well, one of the things you can do when it comes to blogging is outsource the production. This is the back end of WordPress. This is where you actually pour the content into a blog post. And for a lot of people, they're going to look at this, and if they don't freak out, their eyes are going to glaze over and they're going to go, whoa, that scares me because I'm not that technical. Well, you could hire somebody, you could outsource somebody that you could just deliver the written document to, your blog post, and they would take it from there. They'd find the images, they'd create the hyperlinks, they'd put it into WordPress and post it. And you might be surprised if you go to a website like Upwork.com, how cheap that actually might be. You could also outsource the research. This is one of the things I do today. I come up with an outline for a blog post, and then I give it to some of the people on my team, and they're on my team, so it's not really outsourcing, but I did this outsourcing where I hired somebody in the past who would go out and give me some relevant articles and some content that would help flesh that out. You can even, and this might be controversial, but you can even outsource the writing. One of the things I got very familiar with and comfortable with in the world of book publishing was the idea of ghostwriters. I'm not suggesting that you hire somebody to become you, right? What I am saying is that sometimes people who have great ideas and who could deliver that in a spoken word format have trouble, or at least struggle with writing. And you could hire somebody that would take those ideas, you could dictate them, you could do an Evernote outline, and then hand it to somebody who could write it up. That's totally fine, totally legit. The ideas are still yours, the content is still yours. So your action item is to consider what you could outsource so that you can focus on what you do best. Now, maybe you're thinking, but I don't have the money, or that's cost prohibitive. Look, I get it. That's why I put together this monetization jumpstart package so that you can begin to generate revenue from your platform or your site, which will enable you to do some of the outsourcing that I've talked about. And again, this bonus is yours free for staying on until the end of the webinar. So don't leave. Stay till the end and get this free bonus. That brings us to obstacle number 4. One of the obstacles that keeps a lot of well-intentioned bloggers from staying consistent is a lack of specific commitments. And this one may be the most challenging or the worst of all. And correcting it begins with strategy number 9, changing your mindset. Look, you're not any busier than anyone else. You may feel like you are. You may have told yourself that story that you're just too busy to blog. But again, I want to just say you're not any busier than anyone else. We're all busy. I get it. But you have 168 hours a week, just like I do. Just like, the busy homemaker who's blogging and has a mommy blog that's blown up. Just like, the person who's trying to blog in the margins of their life while maintaining a corporate job or starting a business. You've got 168 hours a week. And the truth is that people make time for what's important, right? People make time for what's important. And if you've connected with your why and you've determined what's at stake and you know why blogging is important, you're going to make time for it. You've got to understand the role of discipline. Now, don't let that scare you, but here's what discipline is. Andy Andrews defines discipline this way. He says, discipline is the ability to make yourself do something you don't want to do in order to get a result you want to get. It's kind of like I heard Chuck Swindoll say one time that he didn't really like writing, but he liked having written. I think he was quoting somebody else. I can't remember, but I know exactly what he's talking about. I don't particularly enjoy the writing process, but I like what writing enables me to do. Okay. So here's something we also got to get clear about: inspiration, understanding the role of inspiration, because I think some people are under the mistaken notion they can't write or they can't be consistent unless they're inspired. So they wait till they get inspired to start writing. Here's the deal. Inspiration doesn't usually show up until you do. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you sit down at the keyboard prepared to write and start writing, it's in that process of starting that you get inspired. If you're waiting for inspiration to strike out of the blue, good chance that's not going to happen. That's not how it works. Action item: acknowledge that you have all the time you need to do what matters most. It's true. Your problem is not time management, it's self-management. Strategy number 10, schedule writing appointments. This for me was the only way that I was able to blog consistently while maintaining a big, very busy corporate life on the one hand, and a big, very busy family life on the other. Schedule writing appointments. Why? Because what gets scheduled gets done. If you don't make time on your calendar, it's probably not going to happen. Literally, schedule appointments with yourself. These are commitments that you want to honor just like any other commitment, so that if one of your friends comes to you and maybe you've scheduled time to write on Saturday morning and your buddy calls and says, hey, you want to go golfing this Saturday morning? You can legitimately say, because it's on your calendar, oh, I'd love to, but I have another commitment. They don't need to know what the commitment is, but they just need to know you have another commitment. Most people won't ask, but make the commitment and get it on your calendar. Another thing I would suggest is to practice batching. For example, the reason I've got cookies here is my wife doesn't make one cookie at a time. She cooks a batch of cookies because it's just easier. I mean, she's got all the stuff out and it's just easier to do it all at once. Same thing is true for writing. I used to write 3 blog posts on Saturday morning. I have a little bit different schedule now that I'm this full-time, but when I had a full-time job, I would batch it all together and write all my blog posts on Saturday morning. So while I'm kind of in the groove, I'm in that headspace, I'm in that creative space, why not take advantage of it instead of writing just one blog post and then hoping later in the week I get in the frame of mind to create another one? No. Once I get into that space, I'm going to stay there until I knock out all the blog posts. If you're only going to do one a week, great. Sit down and do a month's worth at one time. Here's your action item. Schedule a recurring writing appointment with yourself and then honor it. Okay? So let's review. Obstacle number 1 is clarity. Strategy number 1, set a minimum posting goal. And strategy number 2, connect with your why. Obstacle number 2, creativity. How do we deal with that? Well, strategy number 3 is fill the well. Strategy number 4, create a repository for new ideas. And strategy number 5, develop a blogging template. And then obstacle number 3, competence. Strategy number 6, hone your writing skills. Strategy number 7, use the right software to make it easier. Strategy number 8, outsource the difficult stuff. And then obstacle number 4, commitments. Strategy number 9, change your mindset. Realize that you've got plenty of time. You just got to make it important enough to do it. And then strategy number 10, schedule writing appointments. But there's a 5th obstacle, one that I haven't shared yet. This is kind of a bonus obstacle, and that's a lack of courage. Some of you may just be stuck because you're afraid. You're afraid the world won't appreciate what you have to say, or you're afraid you won't be able to figure out how to get heard on above all the noise in the online world, or you're afraid you just don't have what it takes. But look, you are not alone. Every creator in history, including me, has felt that same fear. In fact, I feel that same fear every time I step on a stage to speak, every time I hit the publish button on a blog post, or every time I sign on to teach a webinar like this. I feel a little bit of fear. I wonder if anybody will care. I wonder if I've really got the ability to pull it off. But the distinction between those who are defeated by fear and those who conquer it is this: they do it anyway. That's it. Sometimes you've just got to do it scared. Those who live their greatest aspirations instead of just daydream about them have realized that true courage has nothing to do with the absence of fear. Rather, courage is the willingness to act in spite of your fear. So have the courage to do it, even if it scares you, especially if it scares you. I promise it will get easier over time. Now, I want to remind you why that matters. You signed on to attend this webinar today because you have a message that's burning inside of you, right? You have a product, a service, or a cause that the world desperately needs. You believe that the world would be a better place if they would just understand something that you understand or something that you can communicate. But you're frustrated because you can't seem to get the attention it deserves. And that's where a lot of writers leave it. But it's time you choose to believe that your message matters enough to take action. It's time for you to move forward in spite of these voices of fear, in spite of all the obstacles we've been discussing. It's time that you start pursuing the life you've dreamed of. And it's time you start reaching people with that message that only you can share. The way I see it, you've got three choices. You could quit altogether. And a lot of people are going to make this choice, right? You know, a lot of people dream of having an impact. A lot of people dream of getting their voice heard. A lot of people dream of having influence in the world, but they just give up. You know, it's too hard. They're too scared, whatever. You could do that. That's a legitimate option. You could quit altogether. Number two, you could continue to go it alone, hoping to get better results. And a lot of people are like that too. It's not that smart, but a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't get the help they need. The third option is you can let me help you get better results using a proven system. It all comes down to this. Do you really have the time to tackle these obstacles on your own? And obstacles we haven't even talked about. Your message matters too much to waste years trying to discover on your own something I can teach you from my own experience and from the experience of successful platform builders. But that's obviously more than I can teach you in just a blog post or a podcast episode or a webinar. So I've created a custom solution for people just like you. It's kind of a GPS for the journey of platform building, and it's called Platform University, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. But before I do, I want to remind you again about the special bonus I have for all of you who stay with us until the end of today's seminar. It's the Monetization Jumpstart Package, expert hacks to help you generate revenue from your site this week. And again, it includes the exclusive interviews with Chalene Johnson and Dan Miller that'll enable you to start generating revenue from your site this week. And it's yours free just for staying with us a few more minutes until the end of the webinar. So stick around. Now, before I tell you what Platform University includes, I'd like to explain why it exists. Here's why I chose to start Platform University. When my book Platform hit the New York Times bestseller list, I started getting inundated with email messages, voicemail messages, people stopping me on the street and saying, I want to do what you did, but I need more than what's in the book. Would you be willing to have coffee with me? Would you be willing to talk with me on the phone? Could we do a video conference? And I mean, I just was overwhelmed with it. I thought that just doesn't scale. There's not enough of me to go around. I can't do that. Plus, honestly, I'm not the only voice you need to be listening to. There are other people that can help you with aspects of this that I can't. And so I created this membership site, Platform University, to give people the help they need so that they could go beyond the book and actually start building an online platform that would give them the visibility and help them be heard in a noisy world. So what is Platform University? Well, again, it's my exclusive online membership site. We deliver new video content every single week. The content can be viewed online or it can be downloaded. We provide video, audio, and printed transcripts of everything so you can consume it any way you want, whether it's on a commute, at the grocery store, at the gym, or right in front of your computer screen. We also provide interaction with members in the membership forums. We have thousands of members, people who get what you're trying to do and are trying to do the same thing. And we've got people at all different levels so that they can help one another. And that also gives you access to me and my team, but also through live calls and the forums. So we offer 4 types of content at Platform University. Let me just quickly give you an idea or a little taste of what that is. First of all is the Masterclass. This features exclusive interviews with A-list guests like Dave Ramsey, Pat Flynn, Jeff Goins, whom I've already mentioned. Lisa Turkhurst, Dan Miller, Amy Porterfield, Cliff Ravenscraft, and we tackle topics like this. Make $150,000 from your platform this year. I've already talked about that video, but that was originally a masterclass that Dan taught. 10 mistakes you're making with your blog and how to fix them. Build a cash-generating email list with Derek Halpern. The freedom and potential of passive income online with Pat Flynn. Or use Facebook to create massive engagement with Amy Porterfield. Or how to kick procrastination to the curb with Rory Vaden. That's the masterclass. Then there's the Backstage Pass, where I give you a behind-the-scenes tour of my own platform and business. You know, part the curtain, let you see how I make the sausage, so to speak. But I talk about things like how to write your next blog post in 70 minutes or less, or how I developed multiple streams of income, or the most effective way to grow your business, or how to set yourself up for a productive day, or my favorite WordPress plugins, or the pleasures and pitfalls of working with the family. I've never given anyone this kind of access outside of Platform University, but it's an inside look at exactly how I do what I do. Then there's also the Platform U how-to. This is killer. It's a step-by-step, click-by-click guide to the things you most want to accomplish online. For example, how to get 1,000 people to view your next blog post, or how to get more traffic in 15 minutes with SEO, or how to quickly convince anyone to buy from you, or how to instantly increase your social shares by 85%, or how to set up a do-it-yourself recording schedule, how to write headlines that make people want to read. Again, very practical, very simple, but step by step, even if you don't have any technical expertise. Finally, there's also the live Q&A call, which is a private members-only video call that gives you direct access to me, my team, and the guests featured in our monthly masterclasses. We'll answer your most important questions about things like practical strategies to go from hobby blogger to pro blogger, or how to post consistently on your blog, or build trust and gain loyal followers, or get started as a public speaker, or triple your tribe with social media. In addition to those 4 pieces of content we release every month, you'll also get access to our discussion forums. This is perhaps the single most powerful feature of Platform University in the thriving community we've built. And I hinted at this earlier, but what would you give for the chance to sit at the table in a coffee shop for an hour each week with someone who's built the kind of audience you're aspiring to build, to get hands-on help and in-depth guidance for your specific questions? Well, that's exactly what you're going to find in the forums. You have instant access to literally thousands of aspiring influencers just like you. That includes many who have already built massive online tribes and can give you the practical answers you need out of their own experience. It also includes others just like you who are starting out and can give you the camaraderie and the encouragement you need to know you're not alone in this endeavor. So maybe you're wondering what the benefits of Platform University are. And here's what you're going to find. You're going to find the inspiration you need to keep going when you want to quit. Hugely important, because we all want to quit at some point. Access to world-renowned platform masters who are experts in their respective fields. Plus proven strategies and resources so you don't have to figure out everything on your own. Also, the opportunity to view content that's relevant to you at your own pace, the way you want it. You gain insights and ideas and support from a community of people who get what you do. Plus, quick feedback to your specific ideas or needs and questions. So, who's Platform University for? Well, it's for authors, speakers, coaches, consultants, pastors, financial planners, marketing directors, business owners, retailers, salespeople, realtors, even CEOs. We've already helped thousands of people just like you build massive audiences and make a big impact online. People, for example, like John Meese. John says, before I joined Platform University, my email list was just family and friends. Since then, my list has grown to be 17 times the size it was before, and I've gained an extra 2,500 page views a month on average. Now I generate more revenue in a week than I did in the full year I blogged before joining Platform University. Giovanna Ellison says this: I love Platform U. I love the community. I love the people in it. The single biggest transformation I've had was being able to make $16,000 in 60 days, also being able to build something called Professional Women of Integrity. She goes on to say, we have grown from 313 women to 2,967 women just in the past 4 months because of the strategies, the tools, the knowledge, and the wisdom that you give. From 300 people to nearly 3,000 people. That's 10 times growth in just 4 months. Or there's Jonathan Milligan. Jonathan says, in the past 2 years, my revenue has doubled each year and every year. I attribute that to the insights, tips, and advice I've received inside of Platform University. My email subscribers has also doubled since joining Platform University. And I also love these results from Jackie Bledsoe. Jackie says, I've seen amazing growth on my site since joining Platform University. My unique monthly visitors have increased 49%, and my email list has more than doubled. I've also become a regular contributor for the Huffington Post, and I've signed 2 publishing deals with Lifeway Publishing. I'm so excited to impact more men and families with my message, thanks to the growth I've experienced since joining Platform University. And then Mike Kim, whose platform now generates over 6 figures a year. He says, when I started at Platform U, I had a mailing list of just 200 people. My email list is now 2,000 people, which may not seem like a lot, but they're very engaged with me. Moreover, they're a new audience, one aligned with my new career. That would not have been possible without building a platform the way I did. As a result of my blog, I can conservatively say I earned $100,000 as a direct result of products or services I provide. I went from $0 in another career to $100,000 in the past 2 years. My income continues to climb. So these are just some of the Platform University member testimonies who've gotten incredible results and, more importantly, are making a huge impact online. Now, I know you're busy and you're probably wondering, how much time does it take to learn from the materials at Platform U? Well, the answer is really not that much. 15 to 60 minutes a week, but you can take it at your own pace. Some people even binge watch once a month, but we break the lessons into bite-sized pieces, some as short as 10 minutes. We also provide a downloadable MP3 with every section so that you can build your platform while you're on the treadmill, while you're out for a run, while you're at the gym, while you're commuting to work, or even walking through a grocery store. And we also provide a transcript for each video lesson so you can read the content or quickly reference a specific strategy. Plus, the Platform University site is fully responsive, which means it's accessible on any device, your phone, tablet, laptop computer, desktop computer, Mac, or PC. It doesn't matter. You can access Platform University anytime on any device. So what would you expect to pay per month to get this kind of content, this kind of help, this kind of camaraderie, this kind of encouragement? Maybe $97 a month? Nope. Maybe $59 a month? Nope. Just $37 a month. That's all a Platform University membership costs. For just over $1 a day, I'll show you how to build a following faster and easier than you ever thought possible. I'll help you find and connect with the audience that's right for you. And I can help you refine your message and show you how to get that message heard through Platform University. And by the way, we have a no-hassle cancellation policy. Your membership is a month-to-month commitment. You can cancel anytime you want. We even have an annual pay in full option that'll save you $97. One payment of just $347 for a year of membership. That's almost 3 months for free. So for just over $1 a day, you get access to all of our valuable content with absolutely no risk. The masterclasses, the Backstage Passes, the Platform University how-tos, the live Q&A calls, and the discussion forums. There are also some incredibly valuable bonuses that we'll make available to you, including these 3 resources available exclusively to our Platform University members. Get the Attention Your Message Deserves ebook, which is hugely helpful. Blog post templates, 13 of them for all different kinds of writers in all different kinds of situations, and recordings of the Impact and Influence Summit, which we recently recorded with over 20 influencers, major names, people that can really help you. So your membership also comes with access to our robust member bonuses section with member-only discounts on the top services and events for platform builders, plus special exclusive content that I don't make available anywhere else. Plus, if you enroll before the end of this webinar, you'll also get my ultimate time-saving toolkit, 3 blogging tools guaranteed to cut your writing time in half. It includes my own personal Blogging Made Easy template that can use as your paint-by-numbers guide to create winning blog posts in no time. Plus, you'll get 65 foolproof blog post ideas to help you kiss writer's block goodbye. And you'll also receive Evernote Hacks for Bloggers, the ultimate guide to creating more powerful posts in less time. Again, this powerful toolkit is available exclusively to those who enroll before the end of the webinar. And we still got the Q&A to go, so you still have time. But I encourage you to act now. So head over to platformuniversity.com/VIP to enroll and grab your copy now. And to make sure there's absolutely nothing standing in the way of you joining Platform University, you can join today for just $1.99. That's right, $1.99. I'm offering, and my staff thought I was crazy to do this, but I insisted, I'm offering a 7-day trial of Platform University exclusively to you on this webinar. You can come in, kick the tires, see the membership for yourself, learn from the content, interact with other members, and have complete certainty that Platform University is right for you. If you don't love it, within these first 7 days, you can cancel immediately. Otherwise, you'll automatically be upgraded to a full membership with permanent access to Platform University for just $37 a day. I mean, seriously, what do you have to lose? You can join Platform University today for just $2. You can't even buy a cup of coffee for that. Just $1.99 is all it takes for you to start benefiting from my best insight in Platform University. But there's a catch. We don't practice open enrollment at Platform University, which means you can't just join anytime you want. We follow a cohort model instead. We only open public enrollment twice a year, but we're giving you the special opportunity to sneak in between enrollment periods. But here's the deal. Enrollment closes in just 4 days at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. After that, it could be months until you have another chance to join Platform University. So don't wait. You joined this webinar today because you have a message burning in your heart and you want to share it with the world. And I'm here to tell you that your message matters. You really do have what it takes to make an impact on the world and to build the kind of influence and financial freedom you've always dreamed of. But if you're not careful, years can fly by while you're busy trying to figure it all out, while keeping up with the demands of life. And that's why many people never build a platform they've been dreaming of. That doesn't have to be you. A year from now, you could be writing or speaking to an audience of thousands. You could be earning a living doing what you love most and spending your time on work that is truly significant, that matters to you, but only if you let me help you. The bottom line is that coaching helps you go further, faster. This is something I believe and practice in my own life. I've got lots of coaches that help me get where I'm trying to get faster than I would otherwise get on my own. So I can guide you along the way, but again, only if you join Platform University right now. I wouldn't offer Platform University if I wasn't 100% convinced it would help you. So I'm providing a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't think Platform University is for you, just email our support team at support@platformuniversity.com and we'll refund your payment, no questions asked. So you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Again, the deadline to register is in just 4 days at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. I don't want you to miss this. Don't miss the opportunity to get the training you need to catapult your message forward. Now, if you remember back to the beginning of the webinar, I promised you a bonus just for staying on until the end. And I want to give that to you now. It's the Monetization Jumpstart Package. You can download that at platformuniversity.com/jumpstart. You don't have to do it right now. It's going to be up for a few days, but that's the URL /jumpstart. And as you remember this webinar, I provided you with 10 strategies to crush the obstacles in your way, create content quickly, and grow your following exponentially. But now I'll provide you with a secret 11th strategy as a bonus. If you want to win big with your platform and do it fast, you need to join a community. I don't know why we feel the need to go it alone when we're pursuing something new and difficult like building a platform. A goal like that represents new ground, new territory, which by necessity means you don't know how to do it. You don't know how to accomplish it. Sometimes all we need to overcome the obstacles in our path is a helping hand. And today I want you to believe in yourself and your message enough to make this investment in your future. I certainly believe in you. I believe you can create incredible content, build a big following, and impact countless people you may never meet with your insights this year. And I would be honored to help you make it happen. But I can only do that if you head over to platformuniversity.com/VIP right now. I hope to see every single one of you inside the membership. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mandy for our Q&A session.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Mandy. Good to see you again.
It is good to see you. Man, that content was absolutely fantastic.
Thanks so much. It was fun delivering it because I know it's going to be helpful to people.
I know it will too. I know that so many folks out there who really want to share their message with the world are just so busy. And so all those hacks that you shared that will help them create their content faster, I think is going to get so many more messages out there into the world. It's awesome.
I think so too. And I know for a fact from all the mail that we get, that's like the number one objection people have is just trying to find the time. So I think this will make it a lot easier.
Awesome. Well, Michael, we have received tons of questions over the years about how to build a platform and how to create a blog, and especially about your membership site platform, Youll. So I would love to dig in and answer a few of those here in a Q&A if you're willing.
Yes, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, I love this question we got from Melissa. And Melissa said, so far, out of all these steps, the biggest obstacle for me is to commit to publishing consistently. I think, and this, Michael, this just gets right to me because I think this is at the heart for so many bloggers. Melissa says, I think this is founded in my fear of putting myself out there.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts on how to overcome the fear associated with getting a message out there and wondering how people are going to respond?
Well, let me start, Mandy, by saying, here's how you don't do it. You don't wait till you're not scared.
That's so good.
You know, that's never going to happen. You know, you have to do it scared. It's like anything else. I don't care whether it's public speaking. I mean, just think back all the firsts that you ever did. You know, going on a first date, driving a car for the first time, learning to play guitar for the first time, whatever it is, there's always that initial fear because here's what you're thinking. I'm not sure I have what it takes, or I'm not sure people are going to respond well. And you just have to do it scared. Now, here's the cool thing about it is that when you're willing to commit to something and be courageous, which means acting in spite of your fear, then eventually you'll develop the capability and you'll be more confident. I learned that from Dan Sullivan. He calls it the confidence circle, and it works perfectly. So again, make the commitment, do it scared, be courageous. You'll develop the new capability, and then you'll grow in your confidence. It's that simple.
I love that, Michael. Such great insight. All right, now here's a really good question from Kathy. Kathy said, an online business isn't really what I'm after. I'm a fiction author, so I'm really just looking to build a deeper connection with my readers and hopefully get more readers. So would this be a good resource for me and for other authors?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the number one thing that you're going to be asked by prospective publishers, if you're not already published, is tell us about your platform. You know, they want to know you can write, and especially in fiction, it's really important. You got to be able to spin a good story and create a great plot and character development, all that other stuff. But they want to know, do you have any connection with an audience? What are you bringing to the table? So there's a lot of ways that you can do that. And we do talk about that in Platform University, how you can make use of this if you're a novelist. But yes, you absolutely have to have a platform.
That's so true, Michael. We have so many incredible authors within Platform University, and it's so exciting to see the other members rally around them and cheer them on when they're getting their first publishing deals and they're getting books launched. And even when they're self-publishing, they just have this tribe supporting them. So yeah, it is a truly great place for authors. Yeah,
I was talking with a publishing friend the other day, and I said, you know, there's two times when you need a platform. If you don't go with traditional publishing, you just self-publish, absolutely have to have a platform, because how else are you going to sell it? But if you're going the traditional publishing rate, you absolutely have a platform, because traditional publishers won't talk to you unless you do.
True story. That's so good. All right, Michael. Well, a question from another Michael that came in for us here. Michael says, after 28 years in corporate leadership, I know that I've got something to say to young leaders, but it's still taking shape in my mind. I haven't even started a blog yet, and I haven't even nailed down my brand name yet. So is it too early for me to join this community?
No. And here's why. Because I really believe this truth. I don't know who said it originally, but thoughts disentangle themselves passing over lips and through pencil tips. One of the best ways to not only find your voice, but to really hone your message and figure out what that is, and to find an audience, is by blogging. In fact, it got so much a part of how I think and how I do things that people will sometimes ask me, well, what do you think about this? And I go, well, I'm not sure yet, because I haven't blogged on it. So there's something about the act of writing that helps clarify my thinking. And in his case, in Michael's case, it'll help him find an audience as well. But we can help speed that process up at Platform University.
That's awesome, Michael. I love that. And you know, we have so many folks. I mean, Michael says that he has 28 years of experience in corporate leadership. And so we have so many folks who are more seasoned who come into Platform University.
Yeah.
And one objection that we've heard a lot of times from those folks is like this question that we've got here from Bob. Bob says, I'm technically challenged. In fact, my grandkids are better on the computer than I am. Is this going to be completely over my head?
No. And let me just tell you, that's actually a strategic advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you why. Guys that are a little geeky like me can be endlessly distracted by the technology and neglect the thing that's really important in building an online platform, and that's to create consistent content. I used to think it was an advantage because I knew the technology, but no. I get sidetracked sometimes, trying to improve my site or add this plugin or try this new piece of software. Meanwhile, people that I know that just write, they're focused on that. They know where they add value, and they outsource the rest of that stuff. And it makes it so much faster for them to build a platform. So I would just reframe it as an advantage, not an obstacle.
That's so great, Michael. Now, I love this question from Linda, because let's be honest, everybody who has joined us for the webinar today has joined us because they're busy and they don't know how they're going to have time to create all of this content for their site. And so when they think about joining a membership site, they ask this question that Linda has asked: how much time per week will be required to actually learn from this community? Am I even going to have time to fit the learning into my schedule, let alone the doing? What would you say, Michael?
Yeah, we suggest that people allocate about an hour a week. It definitely doesn't take longer than that. The longest master classes that we have are 45 minutes. Usually they're 35 to 40 minutes. And you'll want to listen to that, maybe do a little processing for 20 minutes. But the Backstage Passes are even shorter than that. And the platform how-tos are shorter than that. So yeah, so an hour a week. And as I mentioned, even in the webinar, some people binge watch, where they'll just allocate like a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday evening, Saturday morning, whatever works for you, and just get focused on going through the content in a few hours.
That's awesome. All right. So Michael, I want to keep firing straight through these. We've got just a few minutes left here in our Q&A. I love this one that came in from Peggy. Peggy said, I'm not trying to reach a general audience, but a more specific corporate audience, like executives and corporate trainers. Would Platform University be able to teach me how to reach these hard to reach people?
Yes, because we say, kind of like the technology thing, that the more narrow your focus, the more of an advantage you'll have. People that are trying to reach a general audience basically reach no one. If you're trying to reach everybody, you're probably going to reach no one. But the more tightly focused and the more honed it is, and we'll help you do that in Platform University, get crystal clear on what we call your avatar or your audience. And yes, we can help you do that.
Perfect. All right. Now, Michael, we've got creatives of all stripes at Platform U. And so I love this question that came in from Melinda. Melinda said, I have a bakery business that's just starting out. Is there any way this would be beneficial to me running a brick and mortar business?
Yeah, anytime people can know the story behind your business, they get more connected with it. I remember years ago, there was a cataloger up in the Northeast, Lands End, And they would always tell the backstory of this sweater, for example, and how they went to Scotland and found this very specific kind of wool that they used. And it made you see that there was something more than just a sweater that you were buying. You're buying into a whole story. And I think that's really true for bricks and mortar retailers. If you can tell people, for example, how you source, what you source, or how you think about your business, or how you solve their problems, that becomes fascinating, and you can build an online platform. And it's got to become more than just selling it to people, but you're giving them a peek kind of into the kitchen on how you make what you make.
Perfect. All right. Well, Michael, our clock is rapidly expiring here. I can't believe how quick it goes. For those of you who are still with us, I want to encourage you to head on over to platformuniversity.com/VIP now to join. And Michael, in our last few minutes here of the Q&A, I'd love to rapid fire through a few questions that came in. Crystal asked, is the content all listen at your own pace?
Yes.
Slav asked, can you quit Platform U anytime, assuming I choose the monthly payment option, say after 1 or 2 months?
Yes, you can quit anytime you want.
Yes, you can. Now, this is a really great question. Barb said, does Platform U have any items like marketing templates or social media calendar templates, stuff like that to help me with marketing?
Yes, we have tons of tools like that. We produce a tool for almost everything we do. So yes, tons of tools.
Fantastic.
Notice how I'm cooperating on this rapid fire thing.
I'm telling you, we're speeding right through them here. We're answering all the FAQs, guys. Now, this is a great one from Angela. We get this one a lot. Angela said, I've got my blog on a different platform than WordPress. So is the university more helpful for those who use WordPress exclusively, or is it okay if I use a different platform?
Totally okay. We recommend WordPress. We talk about it very infrequently. And it's really more about everything else you do. There's no magic to WordPress. It's just the one we know and the one we recommend, but you absolutely don't have to use that one.
Awesome. Well, Michael, there's just 2 more questions that I want to slide in here. This first one I think is so important, and it came from Rick, who said, what kind of networking opportunities exist within the university? Do those in the community actually engage with each other regularly?
Totally. That's the beautiful thing about the discussion forums. The conversation there is incredibly robust. Thousands of people helping each other with very specific problems. A lot of inspiration and encouragement too. I can't believe the culture that we've created inside of there and how positive and encouraging it is. But if you need people that understand what you're doing and can encourage you and help you along the way, Platform University, it's a community that's second to none. I'd put it up against anything on the internet.
I agree. I mean, it's just such an incredibly remarkable and supportive culture. And you know, Michael, I think for a lot of platform builders, one of the biggest challenges is that it can be a lonely road. You're doing this thing. Most of your friends that you chat with, have dinner with, don't really understand what you're after. And you know, you don't really have a great place to go for guidance. You sink into this sinkhole of insight on the web, and you don't know where to start and where to stop. And to have this community, I mean, it's literally like walking into a coffee shop, and every person you sit with at every table knows exactly what you're doing and is a few steps ahead of you or a few steps behind you, and you can really speak into each other's situation. It's amazing.
It's a game changer. It's probably the thing that most people aren't even aware that they need, but once they get it, they would never go back.
Absolutely. Well, Michael, one last question here from Barb. Barb said, can I join Platform University next week, or do I have to join right now?
You have to join right now because we just have these little windows because we follow, as you said, the cohort model where we've got people coming in at one time and we don't want to be promoting all the time. So yeah, we know the deadline drives the decision. And so we've got the deadline for that reason.
That's so true. Well, Michael, your insight on this webinar and in this Q&A in particular has been so tremendously valuable. And so I just want to thank you so much for your time with us today.
Thank you, Mindy.
As we bring this webinar to a close, I would just love it. Do you have any final thoughts for those who've hung with us till the very end, who are wondering whether or not they should be building a platform and if Platform U is right for them? What would you say to those folks?
Yeah, I would say this. Now is your time. You know, there was a reason why you logged on to this webinar. There was something about it when you saw the ad to sign up for the webinar, or something about when you read the webinar page. You know you've got something to share. You know that you have a role in the world that's important. You're not here by accident. The message you've been given is not by accident. But now is your time. I don't want you to keep procrastinating. or to die with the music in you, so to speak. You know, I talked to somebody recently, a publisher, who said, based on some research they did, that there were over 4 million unpublished manuscripts in the US alone. People who had them in desk drawers or, you know, on the table next to their bed, but they just couldn't seem to get it out. I don't want that to happen to you. And at Platform University, we can make it easier. It's not easy, but we can make it easier and faster. And with the wonder of the internet, I mean, this is an incredible time we live in, but you've got to take the initiative and you've got to take action. We can help you, but the first move is yours.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you again so much for all of your time on today's webinar. It has been such a huge help. And I think I speak for everyone joining us today saying that we really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mandy.
And of course, I want to say to all of you guys who are still with us, who stuck with us till the very end of this webinar, that if you're still on the fence, Platform University is absolutely the right place for you. You wouldn't have joined this webinar today. You wouldn't have stayed with us until this very last second if you didn't have a message inside your heart that the world desperately needs to hear. And like Michael said, we don't want to see you die with the music still inside of you when we can help you walk down that road and start impacting lives and changing your own life by sharing your message that you have to share with other people. We have literally seen thousands of Platform University members get incredible results. These people are building brands online. They're leaving their day jobs. They're replacing their salaries, and they're building followings in the thousands and the tens of thousands of people who are engaging with their messages and whose lives are being changed by the messages that they've had the courage to share. And we would love to have you join that tribe and join that community and start transforming the world with the message that's in your heart. So if you've hung with us until the very end, I want to encourage you to head on over to platformuniversity.com/VIP right now to register for Platform U. As Michael mentioned, enrollment is only open for a couple more days. It's a special enrollment window that's just for you while we're between launches here. And so this is your moment. You've got 4 days until 11:59 p.m. Pacific to register, but don't wait because you've got to register while this webinar is still going on. And I'm lengthening things out here to give you an extra minute to go grab that fast action bonus that you only qualify for if you register right now. You're going to get that ultimate time-saving toolkit with all of those resources that are going to help you save time so that you can actually get your content out there quickly and easily. So once again, the link to join is platformuniversity.com/VIP. You would not still be with us on this webinar if Platform University was not the right place for you. So we want to encourage you to head on over there now, and we hope to see each and every one of you inside the membership. Thanks, guys.